Hola, ¿cómo está? I don't know what I said there. I think I said hello, how are you? But I can't be, I'm too fucking ignorant to, to fact check it. Let's talk about some more video games. I feel like I'm talking a lot about video games in the past. I think my past five videos have been me talking about video games. Anyway, we're talking about games that should just
fuck off.
We're talking about games that should die. Well, not really die, kind of more take a break. It was kind of a clickbaity title. But yeah, some game franchises that just need to, step back for a bit. So let's get into it. I'm not including sports games because that will be too predictable, because I think everyone knows that they're all trash. Even players who cop like FIFA and NBA 2K are either A, know that they suck and don't have a better option, or B, are in denial. There's no way around it. It's got to be those two options. You can't actually enjoy the game. You got to be clapped in the head as well if you think that FIFA 22 will be any different to FIFA 63, apart from, oh, but this one has Ronaldo Jr. the third. You've been robbed out of $80, dummy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not having a go at anyone who does this, because I've been a recovering addict from this addiction and buying it yearly, most likely the 2K games. I haven't enjoyed one since probably 2K16, and then I've complained about each game yearly, but I still buy it.
TV session. I don't want to talk to you no more.
So let's get into the games, or the franchises that need to take a step back and kind of reevaluate their life.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
The Call of Duty franchise is the definition of beating a dead horse. Apart from the fact that each release is an improvement visually and looks absolutely stunning with every installment, there's just nothing that excites me about the franchise anymore. I'd say the last COD game I actually cared about was Black Ops, and after that there were a few exceptions, like the controversial Infinite Warfare and the Modern Warfare reboot. The reason I somewhat liked these games was because Infinite Warfare tried to capitalize on a cool concept and actually have some great game elements to it, which made me enjoy the multiplayer a whole lot more. I actually enjoy it more than most Call of Duty multiplayers, with the super jump, added perks, solid customization options, and some nice level design as well. And the rebooted Modern Warfare had a somewhat solid story, and some of the levels in that campaign were top-notch. But that's also the problem. I haven't enjoyed a Call of Duty game from top to bottom in 12 years, and that's 11 releases within that time span, not including remasters or handheld games. Just so, you Call of Duty fanboys will not attack me in the comments for that. And I don't know about you, but it's so fucking disappointing. I think Treyarch or Infinity Ward or whoever the fuck takes on these titles nowadays needs to take a break. Let some time pass before even thinking about developing another title. You have Warzone to keep players happy for the time being. Another alternative could just be work on expanding Call of Duty Vanguard and trying to figure out ways to make that game better, and have constant updates with new content like new perks, weapons, maps, and maybe even a new DLC story for the single-player players. Single-player players? That just doesn't sound right to me. Build on the mediocre game you have and make it great, instead of just releasing another mediocre Call of Duty title. I know I've just offended some COD brown noses out there, but it had to be said. Call of Duty, go away, and then come back later. Like, don't go away permanently. Come back later. We're taking a break. We need a break.
Don't you recognize me? It's me, Mario!
Just as big as an offender, if not a bigger offender of these games that need to take a break, is Ubisoft's magnum opus, kind of, not really anymore, Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed have some of the coolest concepts for games, exploring historic times and creating their own fresh narrative, but as of late, it always seems to disappoint. I like most of the protagonists to come out of that franchise. Actually, no, wait, I take it back. I only like 50% of the characters. I think each time period was well designed from a world building perspective. The things that I can't stand about these games is that they are all too formulaic, a lack of any distinct personality as of late. The stories of each game of recent times fucking suck. They're all too boring and do a terrible job of character building and setting up the world. Each game is filled with so much potential and Ubisoft seem to butcher it every time. The beautifully designed world that I talked about is usually lacking life, having no civilians, and as each game grows in scope, the less there is to look at, being filled with big open spaces, and if you're lucky, you might come across a tree. The thing that pisses some people off is the combat system, which is quite divisive amongst the AC fans. Some prefer the original combat system, which is quite slow and you have to use your wit a bit more. Some people prefer the previous combat system shown in games like Unity, Syndicate, and I guess AC3 and Black Flag were kind of the originators of this combat system. And lastly, there's the current combat system, which incorporates more buttons using light attacks and heavy attacks. And if I'm being honest, this is probably my least favourite for an Assassin's Creed game. In my opinion, I think Assassin's Creed should be put to bed for a while and focus on reviving the Prince of Persia series, because right now the Sands of Time remaster looks like it's heading straight to development hell, and instead it should be one of the hottest upcoming games, but it's not. Prince of Persia is a beloved franchise. It's just a shame that Ubisoft are afraid to go all in with it. Do it. You wouldn't. It got dark all of a sudden. That's outside. That has nothing to do with me. I forgot to turn the light on. And I'm not going to do it.
Sir, finishing this fight.
Anyone remember the PS3 title Haze and how it labelled itself as the Halo killer? Well, looking at Halo's history, I kinda wish it was. In my opinion, I think the franchise was dying after Halo Reach. And some would even argue that it died before that. The somewhat recent titles of Halo have been mediocre at best, if not god-awful. The gameplay just felt too weird and floaty for me, and Bungie literally tried nothing new when it came to the core gameplay mechanics, leading every title to be bland, uninventive, and boring as fuck, to be honest. The story of each franchise started off really well and then slowly fizzled out after ODST. I did enjoy Reach's story, and I think that some of the games after that had cool concepts, but when put into practice, it just sucked ass. I think Halo and Call of Duty have many similarities when it comes to repetition, or even just in general. Both games have amazing visuals that I won't deny, but the pump one out every year, which is a near copy and paste from the previous game, leaves a bitter taste on the tongue. The games have some pretty cool concepts when it comes to story, but execute terribly, like I said, leaving every story to be much desired. And lastly, by this point, both franchises' multiplayers are the only reason why these games are so successful. I think when it comes to releasing games, Call of Duty is probably worse because they pump one out every year, whereas Halo is more like every 2 years or so, but I would rather play any new COD game over a Halo game in a heartbeat. The more I think about it, the more I start to think that Bungie has definitely been a team on the decline as of late, with both Destinies being a mixed bag and every new Halo game being a flop, more or less. Well, that's unless if you're a Halo fan, you'd probably disagree. In my opinion, I think it will only be a couple more dodgy releases and then Halo will be over. And I think it's time to hang up those Spartan boots and call it a day.
Shut me, motherfucker, come on!
This one's just a shame. I was really rooting for Far Cry to be the standout franchise in the FPS genre, but after Far Cry 3, the franchise just fell into mediocrity. Each release isn't terrible, the combat and the shooting mechanics are fine, and the stories that Ubisoft tell are really interesting, but the game is so boring, holy shit. It definitely has that Ubisoft stank on it, you know, the formula that they always use. Boring, bland side missions like viewpoints to reveal parts of the map, enemy bases that you need to take out to reveal a safe house at the end, race missions, fetch quests, and go find a fuck ton of collectibles. All of which are super boring and bring nothing to the game. Little to no world building, no lore, and worst of all, no cutscenes. Not even an in-game cutscene, just a static NPC telling you what you need to do.
The items on the bulletin.
Thank you, Ubisoft. Very engaging. Personally, I don't think that the franchise needs to die or take some time away, but needs to think outside the box because the building blocks are all there. The combat is bare-boned but not boring, and your characters and stories are actually pretty great. You just need to pace your game in a way where it feels like progressing through the game shouldn't be a chore. For the love of God, try some new things, throw out the Ubisoft formula and go balls to the wall with new shit. Take notes on the things that worked in previous games, like the gun jamming mechanic, and implement it into a new and improved game. Far Cry 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all the exact same game mechanically, and it fucking sucks to see this happen, because these games are really interesting to me, but I can't bring myself to play them because I'll be playing the same shit. It speaks volumes that Far Cry 6's DLC, Vast Insanity, is 100 times better than the actual game, and the DLC is much to be desired, almost to the point where it was disappointing. Michael Mando, Gianpaolo Venuta, and Faye Kingsley all returned to play Vast, Jason, and Citra, but all sound slightly off, to the point where I had to look in the credits to confirm that it was actually them. All three performances were incredibly lackluster and didn't have the same emotional performance as Far Cry 3. Vast comes off as more composed and lacks that unpredictability and loose cannon nature that was portrayed so well in Far Cry 3. I thought to myself as I was playing, maybe Vast starts calm and as we progress shit gets more chaotic and Vast falls down that rabbit hole, ending with him having some psychotic outburst. But that's not what we got, it was just a disappointing performance. I completed that DLC regretfully because it almost ruined one of video games' greatest villains, and I was so disappointed that I didn't want to bother with the other two DLCs. I sat there and I thought about some of the cool moments that the DLC had, but apart from the opening cutscene and the mansion hallucination, that's it. Ubisoft. That's your second franchise in this video. Pull your socks up.
Sam! No!
By this point, I think Gears of War has kind of run its course at this point. I think the franchise is pulling out moves of desperation, releasing a tactics-style game and a Funko Pop collaboration game, which was kind of weird. But they did what I was asking Far Cry to do, and that was try something new and go balls to the wall. And I think Gears Tactics was pretty good. It reminded me a lot of Command & Conquer with the whole aesthetic. I think it was pretty obvious that Gears of War was on a downhill slope after 3. I liked the side missions and challenges that Gears of War Judgment tried to include to keep the gameplay fresh, but taking on Barrett as a main protagonist was kind of shit. The games that followed were also disappointing, with characters, that lacked character, and a story that was so forgetful. I watched a walkthrough for this video, and I've already gone blank on what happened. To keep the franchise from dying out completely, I'd probably just remaster the original trilogy and move it to cross-platforms to reach a broader audience, if that is a possibility, or just try to make a sequel to Gears Tactics and try and improve on its predecessor. And that's all I got. Those are franchises which have really let me down as of late, and I just feel like they need to take a break or just kind of burn out completely. It's sad to see what all of these franchises have become. You see their highest highs, but we don't even know what their lowest lows are at this point, which sucks because, yeah, it's just super disappointing. But that's all I got. If you guys enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe. I fucking hate saying that. And if you feel compelled, ring that bell. I hate it every time I say it. It started as a joke and now I have a tendency of saying it. It's fucked. But yeah, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, good evening, good night. Fuck. But yeah, that's all I got for ya. Once again, hope you guys enjoyed. Enjoy the rest of your day. Laters.